Welcome to Vices vs. Verses, Episode 5. Eva jolted awake, her heart racing as she looked around in disoriented confusion. She found herself in her car, reclined in the driver's seat, parked in the employee lot of the local supermarket where she worked. She glanced at her watch and realized it was already 9:15. She was already 1 hour and 15 minutes late. Ugh, not again, she grumbled under her breath, desperately trying to sit up. It was shaping up to be another day of arriving late to work. Despite her best efforts, she had fallen asleep in the parking lot, all because of her aunt's incessant phone call. Her aunt had chosen the worst possible moment to dial her, right as she was pulling into the employee parking lot, just 30 minutes before her shift was scheduled to begin. Eva had debated whether to ignore the call and return it during her break, but the time zone difference made her uneasy about missing her aunt, and she worried it might be something urgent. But the instant she answered, it became clear she had made a mistake. Her aunt, calling from overseas, launched into a lengthy tirade about the neighbors, local market prices, and the latest drama in the family. As her aunt's never-ending call dragged on, she struggled to stay awake, but exhaustion got the best of her. Her vision was hazy when she finally woke up, and her left eye was glued shut. Frantically trying to open it, she discovered that her eyelashes were stuck together, not with makeup, but with chewing gum. The sticky residue from her mouth had transferred onto her hand as she absent-mindedly yawned through her aunt's monotonous tales and, eventually, onto her eyelashes as she dozed off. Now, not only was she already late for work, but she also had this unexpected mess to deal with. In addition to dealing with already being late for work, she had to tackle this unexpected problem. Ouch, she moaned, gently feeling her eye. She attempted to separate her eyelashes with her fingertips, but they wouldn't budge. Going to work in this condition was out of the question. She resolved to make a trip to the pharmacy in search of a solution. Driving with one eye shut proved far more challenging than she had anticipated. Her depth perception was significantly impaired, causing her to swerve unpredictably between lanes. Frustrated, she muttered curses under her breath as she fought to keep the car under control. Fortunately, she only had to navigate a short distance to reach the pharmacy, just around the corner of the street. As Eva parked at the pharmacy and was about to step out of her car, she suddenly heard a siren and noticed red and blue lights flashing in her rearview mirror. Her heart skipped a beat as she saw a police officer in a crisp uniform, with a gun holstered at his side, approaching her vehicle with purpose. The officer rapped on her window, signaling her to roll it down, and patiently waited for her compliance. "Ma'am, do you know why I pulled you over?" he asked. Surprised, Eva hadn't even realized she had been pulled over. She had simply parked at the pharmacy as she had intended. However, to the police officer, her parking in the lot appeared to be a routine traffic pullover. Eva turned to face the policeman with her half-closed eye, which unintentionally made it look like she was winking at the police officer as she explained, "I didn't realize you were pulling me over. I'm on my way to the pharmacy." The officer raised an eyebrow, misunderstanding her expression. "Ma'am, trying to flirt your way out of a ticket isn't going to work," he said, his tone becoming more stern. A loud voice boomed from the street corner as the policeman was about to ask Eva for her driver's license. A crowd had gathered around a poorly dressed man standing on a box crate, complaining about police brutality and passionately reciting Acts 16:37. But Paul said to them, "They have beaten us publicly, even though we are Roman citizens and have not been tried, and have thrown us into prison. And now, are they going to release us secretly? By no means. Let them come themselves and lead us out." The powerful words echoed through the street, drawing everyone's attention, including the policeman. The police officer and the preacher locked eyes, creating a brief but intense moment of tension. The officer dropped his ticket book while the preacher dropped his Bible out of fear, both surprised by the unexpected interaction. With a sense of urgency, the preacher frantically searched for the quickest escape route while the policeman chased him without saying a word. As it turned out, the street corner preacher was none other than Mr. Mann, the infamous open-air preacher. Upon recognizing that the policeman in the vicinity was Pepe, Mr. Mann promptly made a hasty escape. Some time ago, Mr. Mann deceived Pepe by promising him that God would promote him by the end of the year if he believed in him and tithed in Mr. Mann's church. After spotting Pepe, Mr. Mann fled the scene without a second thought, leaving behind the day's earnings without a care. Mr. Mann's congregation members were left perplexed by the turn of events, uncertain about their next steps. Amid this uncertainty, one of the members picked up the collection plate and discovered that it still held all the money they had donated to Mr. Mann's ministry. Meanwhile, Eva found herself wondering about the disappearance of the policeman, especially since her left eye was still struggling to see. She gently rubbed her right eye and turned her body to the left to catch a glimpse of the police officer, but he was nowhere to be seen. Instead, there was a cluster of people near the pharmacy entrance, engaged in a passionate argument over a collection plate overflowing with a mix of notes and coins. Each person adamantly claimed to have contributed more than the others, leading to a deadlock in their attempts to decide how to split the money. With chewing gum still stuck in her eye, Eva hurried to the pharmacy, trying to conceal her embarrassment from the onlookers. As she rushed through the door, she accidentally collided with Casino, causing him to drop his cigar. However, Casino remained composed, staring directly at Eva. He calmly reached for his left coat pocket. Eva turned her face away and raised her right hand to protect her face. She thought this must be the end. She thought Casino was reaching out for a weapon from his coat pocket. But Casino retrieved another cigar from his left coat pocket, lit it, discarded the match, inhaled deeply, exhaled, and then turned to face the bickering crowd. The once chaotic scene of people arguing over the offering plate abruptly stopped. The previously quarrelsome crowd now stood in a state of palpable tension, refraining from uttering even the slightest word. Fearful of Casino and unwilling to draw attention to the money they were vying for, they stood paralyzed with trepidation. They were anxious that Casino would confiscate the money if he spotted the collection plate. Despite their unease, none of them were willing to forego their portion of the money. Eva stood still, her body tensed with fear. Her eyes widened, pupils dilated, and eyebrows raised, yet she was too frightened to confront the source of her terror face to face. One of the men in the crowd started making a soft crying sound, and tears gently rolled down his left cheek. Casino, with an air of majesty, took 2 deliberate strides toward the weeping man, and in a gentle, low voice uttered the words, "Have a good day," while looking down at him. With that, Casino turned and walked away, leaving everyone relieved. The man wasn't crying because he was afraid of Casino. Of course he was, but because he had a clear view of the collection plate and could see the money burning as the match Casino threw away landed inside it. As Casino finally walked away, Eva exhaled a sigh of relief and felt a sense of clarity wash over her. She looked up, surprised that her vision had returned to normal, and her left eye was fully opened. The fear of Casino had enlarged and widened her eyes, that the chewing gum could not keep her left eye shut. It turned out that the mix of fear and shock was the prescription she needed. Who knew that fear could have its own silver lining? Meanwhile, the bickering crowd had nothing to share or fight over as they stared at the ashy remnants in the collection plate. The end.